Candace.
I'm watching you, girlfriend. Come on.
Oh! Candace.
There's something wrong with the hand.
That was a little better. That was a little better. All right. So some may say that your story is a slightly unlikely one. You meet here in Waco, Texas. You start business after business, and then you get this show that really changes your life. When people say, "Was this an improbable story?" What would you say?
Oh gosh, very improbable. Yeah, I mean, really, it's bordering on impossible. I learned somewhere in my college years that the difference between improbable and impossible, and I wouldn't blame anybody if they said this was in fact an impossible story. Joe and I met. You talk about opposites attract. I mean, you know. Very different people in general. We fall in love, match made in heaven, unbeknownst to either of our parents, you know, who were probably fighting it the whole way, at least your parents. My parents were actually in big time support of me.
My parents weren't fighting it. I think they were just wondering
when I was going to get a job.
When he was going to get a job. I didn't want to have to say that. He said it.
Wait, so let's start at the beginning of your romance, because it seems like you found your love with each other at the same time you found this love with your business.
Sure.
When you first met, I know maybe this is therapy. The first time you met was at your dad's tire store.
Yes.
So super romantic.
Very romantic. I had worked for my dad for 8-10 years at his automotive shop. So I was selling tires, I was selling oil changes, I was doing all the books. So I felt like this was going to be something I was going to take once he passed it down. I wanted to take on the automotive shop. And Chip had just graduated from Baylor. He had a couple businesses going. He had a wash and fold business. He had a landscape business. I mean, you name it, he had a business. And he came in to get his brakes done. And I remember the guys up front were saying, "Hey, go check out this guy up front. He owns his own business in town. He's a local." And
the rest is history. Yep. I remember it was funny. I had come out from working to get my brakes done, and compared to the automotive guys, I smelled like a rose. You know, so most of the time I was always feeling a little bit insecure about myself. But compared to the environment she was already pretty accustomed to, she was like, "Wow, you smell great."
There was some confidence.
I felt pretty good about myself.
And you immediately called the store and asked her out?
That's the deal. Yeah, I didn't, you know, I was a lot like your dad. You know, I didn't let an opportunity pass. I mean, if I saw a beautiful woman, and I mean, all she could say was no, you know, so I went for it. Your dad said that's exactly how he asked your mom out. So I just said, "Let's do this."
And then, is this true? Now, I mean, it must be true. You write in the book that he was an hour and a half late for your first date.
Chip doesn't like that part because he thinks I'm
a liar.
But I'm not. I have 4 witnesses, my sister being one of them.
Also a liar.
So after that day we met at the tire shop, he calls the next day, asks me out. We ended up going out that week, and I remember I forgot what he had looked like. He was wearing a hat. He had just got back from working, so I remember he was a little scruffy, and he had
red
dirt all over him, sunburnt. But I forgot, so all my friends were like, "What does he look like?" I'm like, "I don't know. You guys just be at the apartment when he shows up, and then you can see what he looks like." So 30 minutes goes by, and I'm like, "Wait, maybe it's tomorrow." Another 30 minutes goes by, and I'm like, "What an idiot. This guy's not showing up." Hour and a half later, we get a knock on the door, and I said, "I'm not answering it." Well, of course, my friends wanted to see, who is this Chip guy? So I go hide in the bedroom, and I'm like, "I'm not going to be here." They open the door, and of course, as Chip can only do, he walks in and is like, "Hello, ladies." An hour and a half late.
And then he was instantly forgiven.
Instantly forgiven. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I mean, but now that I obviously know my husband, he's about an hour late to everything, so I shouldn't have taken it personally.
You were on time today, though. I appreciate that.
I was on time today. Thank you.
Good today.
I appreciate that. So, what drew you to each other when you first met? What was your instant thought?
You know, for me, being in Waco, we had moved, as a little girl, I'd moved around a lot. So I graduated here from Waco, but I remember thinking, I just love this town and I want to really plant my roots here. But after I'd graduated from college, a lot of people left. They were going to Austin, Dallas, Houston, bigger cities. And so one of the things I'd always ask if I had met a guy and we were thinking, you know, I'd say, what are your plans? And so they'd all say, "I'm going to go to California or New York." So I always knew, I don't want to move. When I asked Chip when he was at my dad's shop that day, he said, I really love Waco and I want to plant my roots here. So I thought, okay, so that's a start. But I just loved his heart for this town. But I also just love that he knew how to draw me out. I am more introverted. So he had the right questions. And I remember leaving that conversation just thinking, man, a lot of that stuff was really thought-provoking. These questions he was asking me really made me kind of dig in and get a sense for who I was.
And
Mine was a lot more superficial. I was attracted to her hotness.
Oh, right.
And then that was it.
Yeah, right.
And then as she started talking, I was like, and she's got gorgeous lips. I didn't even realize that at first glance.
Oh,
so there's humor here.
oh goodness.
There's humor in
Story of
this
my life.
marriage.
Yes.
Right after you get married, you start, it seems like this little house, this little yellow house that you moved into was sort of the catalyst for all of this, for what you've built together. You hadn't even ever done interior design work before?
Again, I crunched numbers at my dad. I mean, if anything, I thought I'd go into accounting or something, just because I love the numbers of the business. As far as design, I had no idea what I was doing, and so Chip, when we were dating, he would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house? And then after we'd sell it, I'd go, oh, he's actually kind of smart. So our first fixer-upper together, we really learned how to work together. I learned what not to do from a design standpoint. We joke that every room literally had a theme. And at the time I collected sailboats, like the cheap sailboats you just get at those,
Yes.
cheap sailboats, and lighthouses. And so the front room was a nautical theme. So there were lighthouses and sailboats, and then the kitchen was like country, French country, and then, I mean, literally 6 different themes in this small house.
My little cowboy room in the back.
Yeah,
I had this
cowboy
mirror
room.
with these longhorns on top of it. I mean, we really we all the aesthetics that are even imaginable combined into one project.
But that house must have taught you that you had, even if you were liked the theme, that you had a knack for design.
I think so.
I think so, a little bit. I mean, what's funny about that is I remember the whole idea that when, I was so proud of, come look at the house, and at the same time I was also talking to our family and friends about opening up a store. But then when they'd come see it, they'd be like, maybe you should do something else. I remember people literally talking me out of doing a home store because of so I think for me it was just learning to try. And obviously we moved numerous times after that, and every time we moved, what I started learning was how to get creative within the small budget that we had. And what I loved about it is in those creative moments, it taught me a lot about kind of just thinking outside the box and having to think beyond this tight budget, forced me into this creative spot that I think really taught me well.
When you opened that first little store, what I read that women would come in and say, well, now how can you teach me how to fix up my house? How can I fix this up? How did that store kind of lead you into all of this?
So the same year we were married, in 2003, we opened up the little shop on Bosque. We named it Magnolia. And I remember for the longest time I was the only one working. I was by myself, and Chip would be in the back. And women would come in and literally ask me for advice. And I remember sitting there behind the counter going, oh my gosh, what am I gonna say? I would literally have no idea. And so I'd start making stuff up and thinking, I hope they don't return all this tomorrow. Well, they never would return it. So I think every time a woman would come in there and ask for my opinion or my advice, that was my way of learning. That was kind of like trial and error. That was my education. So for the first year, I was really just stumbling and just going, okay, maybe this or that. But the more and more I was in the shop, the more I played around. During the slower hours, I'd play around with displays, and I'd really start getting a feel for what it was that I loved. And I realized that's what I had to kind of teach others, is go with what you love and throw the rules out.
I also love when I read that you said, maybe one day I'll open a shop, and both Chip and your dad sort of gave you the confidence to do it right now. Why would you wait?
Yeah.
Chip, is that sort of part of your philosophy, is just to live in the moment and to make things happen?
Oh, sure, yeah. Even as a kid, my mom and dad have these hilarious stories about me doing one crazy thing after another, and it just sort of built this, everybody's scared of something, but I have a very high fear tolerance. So when I think about starting a business, I literally would call that on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most fearful you could be, like a 1. So,
what's a 10?
Yeah. Skydiving?
Give me
Kind
10.
of, yeah, skydiving, although I've done that.
Snakes. Well, there are a lot of snakes here in Waco.
Grizzly bears.
Grizzly bears. You know, if you're going to wrestle a grizzly bear,
Yeah.
that's a 9. You're going to start a business,
9.
so you lose a couple of bucks, so your friends think you're a loser. What else is new? So I told Joe, I was just like, babe, what are you so scared of? I mean, you go buy this piece of real estate. For me, real estate was always the backdrop. So we loved the building that she bought to do her first story. So I literally thought, this is a no-brainer. We're going to make $20,000, $30,000 on this property, period. And if you go and lose $20,000 in your first year of business, we would just break even on the sale of the property.
Yeah.
So I always felt really
Comfortable, confident.
I always felt really confident
That's timely.
as I'm feeling wildly insecure now. This is a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10.
No. You always
I
felt.
always felt confident about going for it. You know, I was really confident about painting the worst case scenario as not that big of a deal. And Joe, I think, bought onto that. I mean, you know, worst thing that happens, you go start a store, it doesn't work. Best thing that happens, you go start a store, you're picked up by a reality television show, you become a multimillionaire,
Oh, don't
and
say
you move to the Bahamas.
Don't say that.
I'm not saying it's happened, I'm saying it could happen. And then you move to the Bahamas where all the rich people live.
Is that where they live?
Yeah. Is this the Bahamas? No, but one thing that I do find to be, lucky and wonderful is that you work so well together.
Yeah.
So when he came to you and said, why don't we start a business? Why don't we start making these fixer-uppers?
Yeah.
Why don't we start investing? See, you're
Sure.
rubbing off.
I got
Start
you.
investing in these homes and investing in you and your store. Was there ever a moment where you thought, well, maybe we shouldn't work together?
I think from the beginning, it was one of those things where God knew we had to work well together just because of the nature of our business. But just from the beginning, I think we knew Chip was the big risk taker, he was the big visionary, and then I was the numbers one. I was the one that was like, okay, here's your vision, and these are the steps to get there. And I think we both understood each other's strengths, and rarely were we in the wrong court. Like I'm never the visionary when it came to all that stuff. So I was like, okay, what do you want to do? I'd cry a little bit, say I don't want to do it. Then I'd get on board and figure out how to make it work. But I think we just learned how to work with each other and stay in our lanes and really respect what my strength was and then respect what his strength was. And we've had our ups and downs for sure, but we're the opposite, where I think a lot of couples, a lot of our friends are like, hey, we need that 8 to 5 break. And I really respect that. But for us, if we did the opposite, we're off. So like if I go on a girls' weekend and I come back, it takes us 2 days to get back on the same page because we've been apart. So I think we're just wired differently.
You just like to be together.
I do love being with Joe, and it was really funny. Early on, I realized if I didn't work with her, I would definitely implode. My business would probably go down in some sort of a ball of flame. And I'm pretty easygoing. I mean, I think I'm fun to be around. So I think for you, it was easy to be around me. For me, I realized that there was a net benefit, which is you're going to keep me out of jail.
Well, she did actually pay for you to get out of
said,
jail.
well, she knows that
did
story.
actually pay for you. That's one of the stories in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
That at some point she had to bail you out.
That was really sad. That was a low point. Thank you for
both of
reminding
us.
me of that,
I
Jenna.
had warrants out for my arrest. We both had warrants out for our arrest. And I remember thinking, we've hit rock bottom.
Oh.
Did not tell my parents. Probably going to find out when they read the book that their daughter had warrants out for arrest. The cops were coming for me that day. They weren't coming for Chip.
But they found him and they took him in. When people see all of this and when they watch your show and read about your story, they may not realize that you've had hard times in building your businesses.
Sure.
And in 2008, the bubble hit you as well as most of the country. Talk about what that time taught you.
Gosh, that was a tough time. I mean, Joe and I we had some really big bets at play right when that housing crisis hit. We had taken our first chance on a development here in town, 30 or 40 lots that were just starting to become available, and the bottom literally fell out. And I remember, there were just some sleepless nights. I think it taught us a lot about each other. That was one of the things that I would almost look back in our relationship and say that it really forged our love for one another, because we realized pretty quickly the whole blaming each other for sort of the superficial things that happen to every person, every couple, wasn't really successful for us. I mean, it didn't take us long to realize that's not going to work. So what we decided to do in opposition was just, hey, let's pull in the same direction. Let's go ahead and identify the problem. The economy's terrible. We just did a huge development. Nobody wants these things. We've got a couple of flips that aren't selling. We've got some rental properties that the rent started, being reduced on the units themselves. I mean, it came from every angle. And Joe and I just literally tackled each of those issues individually, and we just realized that when we work together, we're pretty formidable. We're a pretty tough team to beat. And I think that when we came out of that and caught our first big breath, maybe 2010, 2011, I think we looked back and we're like, if we can make it through that, I mean, literally we can make it through anything. And it just kind of convinced us that it was us versus the world in a lot of cases. And for me, that's romantic. That's what the movies are about. Anytime you see some gorgeous love story, it's always about some, terrible adversity that they had to work through. And I think that Joe and I really, that solidified our relationship.
You've said that you cried while writing, and I think you're probably like me. There's tears every once in a while. You're not scared to cry, but you cried while writing that part of the book. What brought those tears?
Is that right?
Probably.
I've never seen you cry.
You never seen her cry?
She literally,
She was like last night.
she's
Yeah.
2/3 robot.
You didn't see me cry, but I was
2/3.
She is.
I cry when I'm by myself. I cry in the car, and I'm like, and then I pull myself together, and then
Oh, yeah.
Exactly,
You
and
gotta have
everything's
those
fine.
moments.
There's breaking points.
No, she's a cyborg, a real life cyborg. If she cries, it makes her really rusty, so she hates to do that. Really? Was that you crying, or was that me that was
I
crying?
think it was both of us. I think you cried at different moments. For me, I just remember feeling that because I was more for some reason with Chip, because he was a visionary, the money thing, it never made him feel defeated. Like the money thing was just like he said, if we
Losing all your money is only a scale of
I mean,
1
that
on a
wasn't
scale
a
of
big
1 to
deal to
10.
him. But
Yeah,
for
that's-
me, with my mom and her culture being Korean, like I just remember going, we can't fail. I can't tell my parents. I just remember there was enough in me going, holy cow, that's not an option. And that was my biggest fear, was what if we have to tell our parents we didn't make it? And so I just remember feeling it from just the standpoint of every Friday when we had payroll going, how are we going to make it? And we had employees that literally held their check for weeks, and we never knew it until I'd go to balance the bank account and I'd realize they're all holding their checks for us. So I think for me, just feeling it and now being on the other side is, I'm in a weird way thankful for that, because I think when you're tested at that level, I think the stuff that you learn and what you get out of it is, I think the stuff that gets you to the long haul. It would have been easy to quit. It would have been easy to say, okay, let's just call it a day, and
a lot of people
close
did.
up.
I mean, that was what people did. They just said, bank, here you go. And they took back the assets, and the couple, whoever they might be, went on and figured something else out. But for both Joe and I, we were passionate. We were going to figure that thing out. And there were some months to where, I mean, everybody had to be a part of this. I mean, I wish I could say we were smarter than everybody else. That really wasn't our case. Our banks bent over backwards to make deals with us. Local vendors would allow us to pay. I remember sometimes 10, 20 cents on the dollar, and we would just inch along, and we'd make it 1 week, and then we'd make it a month, and then we made it a year, and next thing you know, we caught our first breath of fresh air, literally what felt like something had dragged us to the bottom of the ocean. And when we popped out, I remember just feeling like, we're gonna make it. We are not dead, and we are, they're gonna hear about Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Well, and they did. Good segue. A few years after that, somebody came calling and said, we have a crew, let's shoot a show. And now, sitting here across from you, I'm surprised, because he is a little bit of the showman, that you were the one that said, let's go for this, let's do it.
That was the irony in all of it. I had a random phone call, and she called me on my cell phone. I remember thinking, what in the world? And she said, hey, we'd love to just do a quick 5-minute deal on you and your husband. Would you guys be interested in doing that? And I said, well, let me ask Chip. I called Chip, and he was like, it's a scam. He's like, do not call them back.
No way, Jose.
You're gonna probably have to owe them all this money. We don't have it right now. Don't do it. And I remember thinking, Chip, this lady was a normal lady. She sounded really sweet. So I
was
called
like,
her
they all
back.
start off that way.
Called her back, and I'd say a couple weeks later, they came to Waco, Texas, and filmed me, Chip, and our 4 kids. And I think what we love about that is Chip is the showman. I mean, when you watch the show, you see that he eats it up. I mean, he will be the first to do the thing that the most daring, the
But I was
sickest.
awful.
He was
Terrible.
horrible. These lights, the camera, he stopped talking. And for me, I kept thinking, this is going to be easy because Chip's going to carry it. And I'll just be in the background doing the thing. And instead, it was opposite. I had to carry it, which is not a good thing because I can't carry it. I'm not this like...
Well, you can carry it too.
Well, but...
Yes.
At the time, I was thinking, what the heck's happening in our kitchen? The 4 kids are literally climbing on me. Chip is now behind the camera, watching me through the camera, sweating profusely. He is sweating, and so it was bad.
I got all jazzed about like the equipment itself. You know, I was behind the camera with the camera operator going, what does that button do? What does this do? And the guy was like, oh,
It's like, this is not really what you're supposed to be doing.
You're supposed to be on the other side of this
And
thing.
I wish they could show that side, like literally that whole week. We
Yes.
were
But there
horrible.
was
It was
one
awful.
moment that changed it all.
It changed it all. Oh, the whole
I mean,
week,
if it had probably stayed that way, we may not be here
we
right now.
wouldn't be here. I guarantee
Was
it.
it when I took my shirt off?
Nope.
Do
They
you,
didn't
do
care
you
back
love to
then.
take that? Well, you do.
No,
you like to
I think
take your
that's when
shirt
it
off,
changed
right?
everything.
You
Is that
weren't
what you're
doing
talking
that
about?
back then.
Oh.
No, I remember that whole week we stunk. I mean, if you had us in an interview, we were stumbling over our words. And at the end, the producer was like, hey, you guys, we got to draw some emotion. Chip, can you surprise Joe with something? And he was in the works of surprising me with something. And he thought, I'm actually working on this houseboat I want to surprise Joe with. He wanted me and the 4 kids to live on the houseboat for 6 months while we were in transition. We actually were about to be
Normal
homeless.
stuff.
Yeah.
Normal stuff.
Except that most of my kids didn't know how to swim.
4 children. Yeah, no big
on
deal.
a houseboat that was a wreck. So,
Maybe they've got these little floaties that you can put on their arms and they just bob out in the lake.
so last day of filming, I'm blindfolded. I literally think it's going to be a picnic with like candlelight. Like, oh, it's so
Romance.
romantic.
Yeah.
And you know, they undo the billfold. They undo the blindfold, and I remember just going, "Oh, this is a joke." Like thinking there's going to be the pretty boat on the other side of this. And Chip was. I looked at Chip, and he was like, "Ta-da!" Like he was nervous. He knew I was going to be mad. And at that point, I forgot the camera people were there. Chip forgot, and now Chip, because he kind of
Had
I
warmed
screwed
up.
up.
he screwed up.
I screwed up.
Um,
I started getting people on the phone. I was rocking and rolling with the
That's
guy
it.
I bought the boat from. I got this marine mechanic. Who knows a marine mechanic? I mean, I pulled a marine mechanic out on the fly. Joe literally went from pretty irritated to kind of that concept I'm describing. Like, we can be as mad as we want at each other, or we can figure out the problem. And next thing you know, Joe and I kind of started working out what this boat could look like, how we could work this out, how we could get out of it. She kept going, I just want, if we could just figure out how to get half our money back, I'll be fine with that. And so when she set the bar so low, I thought, we can get half our money back. I can work that out. And so we just started rocking and rolling. When I jumped off the boat, as we're walking off towards, basically defeat and misery, the camera guy put his camera down. He was like, if I do my job, you just got yourself a reality television show. So it was a special moment.
When they called, and sorry that I just interrupted
That's
you.
okay, you bet.
When they called and said, yes, this is what you have, a reality television show, was there a moment of hesitation, or you just thought, let's do this?
How did we feel at the very
I
beginning?
think we didn't know. I think we really thought, hey, people in Waco are going to see the show, and hopefully we make them proud. Like, I don't think we ever knew it was going to be this national thing. So I think we were just stupid, and we were like,
We were really dumb.
well, because we don't have a TV, so we don't really know what happens on reality TV shows.
You don't have a television.
We don't. But, so I think that was our idea of TV was local news. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they'll see us flipping some houses. Never would we have thought it'd be anywhere close to this.
Was there a moment where you realized that the show was taking off?
Man, don't you think like by
It
season
seemed like
2?
it took a while. You know, I mean,
It took
for
a while,
us,
one season. Just took a
took a
while,
whole
one
season.
one whole season.
we're really anxious people. We like things to go really quickly.
Instant
And I remember
gratification.
even the call hey, you got the pilot, and then the pilot led to the series, and then the series led to season 2. I mean, all of that took like 2.5, 3 years to unfold. And I remember Joe and I were just like, man, this is miserable, you know, because you would do something and then you would wait 6 months to kind of see how it went. And I remember there were some seasons in that 6-month deal to where we were like, let's do something else, let's move on.
But I remember for Chip though, remember when it was like season 2 when we were in New York, we were actually in Soho, we were doing some stuff for the network, and
this is when it hit me.
A New Yorker noticed us, and she was basically saying, hey, in New York, you know, we leave celebrities alone.
We never do this. We never do this. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Is that how they talk? Is he doing
You're
good?
my favorite.
You're probably offending.
Is this offensive?
Probably
Is this
offending
offensive?
some New Yorkers right now.
Sort of good. And
All
then-
right. And she was like, oh my God, I love your show. I love your show. And so I couldn't believe it.
And were you shocked?
I'm shocked. I was like, what? And I mean this. New Yorkers do not mess with anybody.
No, that's why I live there.
Yeah. Really? I mean, and here this lady was going on and, oh my goodness, I've got this apartment up in this place and you've got to come see it. I think this is like if a Boston person and a New Yorker met and
Child, it's not.
somehow chain smoking was a part of it.
I know about that.
But all that to say, she made my day. And I told her, I got a big hug. We took all these pictures. I felt like at that moment we had made it.
When you film, it's not just, you know, turn the camera on, turn it off. There's a lot that goes into the work that you do, and you still take your work really seriously. And not just the TV part, but that you're an interior designer and your construction work. So talk about what goes into filming of the show.
You know, we joke that when we said yes to this, we didn't know it'd be a full-time job. Like, I think for us, we thought, oh, it's gonna, you know, they'll film us every now and then. But what we've had to really balance is our film schedule with also our construction schedule. And since it's our construction business, a lot that goes into it you'll never see, which is the hours of the design and the process and meeting with the contractors, the construction, you know, all that stuff, so that we can really make sure when you're doing 8 of these at a time, it's literally every week, you know, it's a domino effect. And so there's so much that goes behind that. So when you show up and you film, we have to know kind of what's going on at each job. It's not just show up and do our deal.
Look pretty.
I'm looking around making sure that it's trim that I ordered is actually the trim that's on the walls. And so, but I think we wouldn't have it any other way. I think for us to be disconnected from the job would almost, you wouldn't feel it. You know, I think it's important that we know exactly what's happening on these jobs. Especially from a design standpoint. You know, we've got our crew that's been with us for years that are doing this. We trust it from that standpoint. But from a design standpoint, I've got to know everything that's going on so that I can really feel like this is authentic. This is what we're doing, and when we present this to our clients, it's something that we're really proud of.
Now you're not only filming the show, though, you've also opened up this huge, I don't even know what to call it, a huge complex in the middle of
Thank you for not calling it a compound. A lot of people have gone that
try
route.
not to say compound. Yes. No, what would you call it? I mean, the silos here and this complex in Waco. And one of the things that I read in researching this, which I loved, was this quote, and I just wonder what you think about it. When I think about Waco, I think about Chip and Joe. Waco has become a tourist destination, a lifestyle aspiration, and a relocation consideration, all because of Chip and Joanna Gaines. And this is a place that you love so much. So I wonder when you think about giving back to your home, what goes through your mind?
That's really the most beautiful, the biggest compliment you could possibly pay us. If you told us when this is all said and done that we made $1 million, but nobody felt that about us, or somebody could say that about what we've done here with our community, and there was no money, you know, we got no benefit from it. We would trade, we would take that comment any day of the week. I mean, the fact that Joe and I both had other options. I mean, you know, I'm not saying we were the most sought after individuals on the planet, but we were go-getters. I mean, we were young, up and coming, young 20-year-olds graduating from Baylor University, and everybody left for the big city. And I remember, you know, Joe was was kind of homebound because their parents were from here prior to Baylor. But for me, I mean, I was ready to go off to the big city just like anybody else, but something kept drawing me back to this beautiful town. And I remember it was just, you know, you're right in the middle of two of the greatest cities in the world, Austin and Dallas. If you want to go one way or the other to catch some of the big city events, you can do that. Hour and a half later, you're in either of those gorgeous cities. But there was something just quieter about Waco. There was something that felt like things were a little bit slower paced. And so many people said so many terrible things about this place because of some circumstances that, in fairness to those people, happened. You know, I get it. But the people that live here and the people that worked here knew that that wasn't who we were, you know. And now for people to say that they think of us, they think of this show, they think of our family, they think of the silos, I mean, it's a complete honor. I mean, it's one thing to turn around a city, you know, that has something going for it to begin with. But Waco had decades of really terrible reputation points, one after another. And to be able to kind of turn that on its ear, and for people to consider Waco an option to move here or to come here on some kind of a vacation of sorts, I mean, that's an unbelievable proposition.
You're from here. You went to school here. So what does this mean to you? This is your backyard. I mean, it must feel empowering to make Waco known for positive things.
You know, I went to school here in Waco, and when I worked for my dad, even in high school, I just remember being at the tire shop, meeting a lot of other local business people. And I think that's why I fell in love with the town, just knowing all these business people who took the risk, and knowing they're supporting my father here with his local business, and I want to do the same. But to now see that, fast forward now 2016, you know, Chip and I have gotten to do this silos thing where, you know, our stores down here, and seeing downtown thriving. And, you know, for the longest time, you didn't see businesses popping up downtown, where now we're seeing it everywhere. And I think it's humbling. It's one of those things where we're excited to be part of its story. You know, I don't think we credit ourselves for all this, but I think in the end, the fact that we get to be a part of it is a huge honor.
I wouldn't mind if maybe when this is all said and done, if they had a statue of me like down by the courthouse.
You can have a statue of yourself.
Is that too much to ask?
With your shirt off.
Seriously, there is a lot. Okay, I just have to ask,
Rub
you
your
know,
belly.
there's some dad
For good
bod.
luck.
You like to show your dad bod off.
I like that. That's
you
my
don't
favorite
mind
part.
that it's a dad bod. You know, it's you're not.
I've always been very self-aware and very confident. I used to not have a dad bod, and I like to show that off also. And then when I started realizing that what I used to show off was not what I was showing off as we spoke, I thought, who cares? You know, that's only a 1 at a scale of 1 to 10. That's only a 1.
But true story, in season 1, when he started doing this thing, he really thought, hey,
still
I
had
look
it.
like I'm 24 years
Yeah.
old. Then we start watching the show, and he's like, oh my, Joe, I can't believe you made me do that. I'm like, I didn't make you He was blaming me, and so finally he just owned it. There was another thing he had season 1, was his gray tooth, which if you watch season 1 now, he goes, why didn't I ever? It was like $200
I would
to
laugh.
fix.
I would laugh with,
Yeah, the
with my
gray
friends,
tooth.
and I would just cover one tooth, you know, periodically. And when we went to get it fixed, because I literally was like, look, I am really fat, and I've got a gray tooth. I can only fix one of these because I don't have the discipline to stop eating donuts. So I'm going to fix the gray tooth, and it was like $200. And I remember telling Joe, I was like, this is all it costs to get one of these things fixed. And this whole time I've been, you know, in agony and complete self, you know, defeat, misery, you know.
Obviously, you're authentic people. You are who you are. I mean, you're showing the dad bod and the gray tooth. And is that what you think draws people to the show?
I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is when the cameras turn on, I think in the beginning we were scared. Well, are they going to make us act like something? Are they going to ask for drama? Are they going to, you know, and that's what we were terrified of, because I think in my mind that's what reality TV was. But the network was just always great. Our producers are great to just say, no, we just want what y'all are really doing. And I think when we felt the freedom to just be ourselves, we never thought about what's on the other side of this. We weren't ever being intentional about, once this airs, this is what we're going to look like. Now, sometimes we look at it and we're like, we could have at least we could have touched that in a little bit, or thought about some hair and makeup. But I think that's hopefully what, you know, we want to connect to people. We want to be relatable. We don't want to be Chip and Joe up here, and then, you know, we want people to know that we're just a normal couple from Waco. We're passionate about what we do. We love the business of home, and we really like each other.
You've taken this small business, this fixer-upper business that you started together, a small store on the Bosque, and now you have really started an empire. I mean, I walked in today and I was like, how did they start this empire? You have a magazine, you have a book, you have home goods, you have this store here, you have this show. What does it take to do all this? I mean,
that's a great question. That's fun. You know the answer to that? I'll tell you this, for me, it's just lots and lots of hard work. I mean, you know, we forget which came first, the chicken or the egg, you know, but Joe and I both had big ambitions. We had big passions. I mean, back in the day, it was that we were going to be, you know, the best construction company in Waco, Texas. And I mean, we had a goal to accomplish that. We started a little real estate company. We wanted that to be the best in town. She started her retail shop. We wanted that to be the best in town. I mean, Joe and I don't play around. I mean, when we do stuff, we want to be the best at it. And so as the show started picking up steam, it was really funny. We even wanted to be the best at that. I mean, we would start watching other shows' ratings and compare our ratings to even like big network, you know, ratings. And we were like, wow, that's an unbelievable show. Look at the ratings. Gosh, we've got a long way to go. And it was just fun. You know, I think competing with one another in friendly ways, against other people in friendly ways, I think it helps keep you young. I think it helps keep you motivated. And as things started kind of picking up steam, we never thought we'd made it. You know, we're done. Let's cap this here so we can put some money in the bank. I mean, again, like a couple of teenagers, we'd take some money and we'd reinvest it. And we'd take some money and we'd reinvest it. And I mean, we'll see how it all goes. I mean, the proof is not yet in the pudding, I can assure you of that. But so far, I really feel like we're building something that when years play out and we look back, I think we'll have something here that we're really going to be proud of.
You know, I think in the beginning when we first started, everyone was asking, can you come to New Jersey or can you come to Florida? And Chip was really trying to figure out how to make that work. And I remember going, we can't. How do we take all of our crew? You know,
A couple wanted us to come to New Zealand. I was like, I think
he spent like 2 days trying to figure out how we could get to New Zealand.
Trying to figure out how to get Shorty to New Zealand.
Yeah. So, you know, for us, the intention of, you know, what we have here at the Silos is really just, okay, growing into a bigger spot for the shop on Bosque. And then what we've taken on from a national standpoint, whether it be the furniture line or that paint stuff, is really, this is our way of coming to your town without having to really come to your town, because we can't. We have 4 kids at home and we've made a commitment to stay here in Waco while they're young, until they're all out of school, so that we can be here for them first. So when we've taken on these collaborations with all these partners, it was really our way of extending that reach from a design standpoint, saying, hey, we want to help you, and this is our way of doing it.
Speaking of, you have 4 kids, they're on the show. How do you do it? As a mother, how do you balance everything that you have going on?
You know, for us, I think our kids are really what keeps us grounded.
You're like, that too, yeah, that too.
No, but really, I think our kids are what keep us grounded. When we get home from a long day at work, they are what, I mean, that's why, you know, for us, they're our inspiration. They are what really, they're a priority. So whether it's Chip with the kids, you know, taking them to the animals or throwing a football, he's the best at being a kid with them. And then for me, just connecting with them on levels, whether it be in the garden or in the kitchen. Just when we're home, we just really try to be home. And I think before all this, it was easy to say, hey, you know, I'm a stay-at-home mom who works too, you know, but then I'd have my phone and I was holding them. And so now I've just had to carve out super intentional time. Okay, tonight I'm taking this child out on a little date. Tomorrow Chip's gonna, you know, so we don't want this to go by so fast that we forget the most important things in front of us. And so we have to really carve out intentional time with our children.
Amen.
One of the other things I think people like about your show is that in a time where things are a little messy in our world, you take, you know, maybe something that's not chaotic or not so beautiful and make it beautiful. Is that one of your favorite parts of your job?
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, our first sort of motto, and we put it on the back of every one of our little construction vans, was we're going to make Waco beautiful one house at a time. And I mean, that was always, there was something about it for us, taking this thing that our parents would say was a terrible idea, the neighbors, there was one house that we bought specifically, and I remember this couple ran into us and were like, hey, you're going to bulldoze that, right? And we're like, what? That never even dawned on us. But ironically, we were like, that's not a bad idea, but we were just, again, we were too dumb to think through it like that. We didn't have the budget to bulldoze stuff like that. So we figured out how to make things work. And then when we'd get on the other side, that couple would be second or third in line in these little open houses that we would do. And I would always laugh going, wow, they really thought we should have bulldozed this. And again, in their defense, maybe they were right, but here they are literally walking through the house going, what did y'all do to this place? I cannot believe it. And there's something addicting to that. I mean, that whole transformation process, there's a reason that this program, this niche market, if you will, has become such a thing. I mean, to cook a meal at home is intriguing to people. To do renovations with your own two hands is really intriguing to people, and it's fun to be a part of something like that.
And I think people really like to see that Cinderella story. They love seeing the house with the least amount of potential, or the one that's just completely torn down. And I think that's what keeps people watching. They want to know, what does this thing look like in the end? I think there's just so much reward in that. And like you said, with all the stuff that's happening in the world, I think it's fun to see. It's like a breath of fresh air when you can see something go from chaotic and really there's no value in that into someone's dream home. I think that's one of the things that people like about the show.
You have all of these celebrity fans, Taylor Swift, Blake Lively, all these people watch your show. Are you shocked?
Oh, yeah.
Shocked.
Yeah, the fact that celebrities are interested in what's going on in little Waco, Texas. Really, Ryan Reynolds, he tweets us out. I mean, I'm sure he's being facetious, but he says something like, my goal for 2016 is to infiltrate the Gaines' life, and he said to eat stuff and to build stuff and to break stuff. And really, the way he said it, I was like, that sounds pretty romantic to me. But the idea that some of these folks are interested in the show is really awesome, mind-boggling.
Chip always said in the beginning, if we can get our in-laws, our grandparents, all those people to watch, then we're doing great. And I think in the beginning, that's really what we thought. It'd be the town, it'd be our family. So now to fast forward, and like you said, we get tweets from celebrities, it just seems very surreal.
And then also, this place has become a tourist attraction. I mean, when I walked in, I needed to have been a little bit more prepared because I had my little rolly bag, and there were people from all over the country. Visiting the silos. I mean, you must see it, but is that
crazy.
Surprising?
This weekend we met people from Alaska, Singapore, just from all over. You're going, what? You came here for, it's crazy to think that people are coming to Waco, Texas to see what was, the little shop of Bosque now here at the silos. But I think in the last year, one of the things that Chip and I really focused on with this place here was just that when people come, that they really have an experience, that it's not just about, hey, I hope they buy stuff. That's not what it is. If people leave inspired and they leave getting good time with their family and their loved ones, that's the goal for us, that when they come, they're in the garden, they're on the turf playing with their kids. Just, it's almost like I want them to feel like it's a step back in time where they can put their phone down and just be with the people they love the most. And if they leave inspired, then we've done our job.
I love that. What do you hope you all are remembered for?
That's a good question.
What do you got something?
Well,
I think it's sort of like one of those profound.
It's great though.
I mean, for me, I think we both have talked about this. It's the thing where, when this all is whatever happens, when we look back, we want our kids to say, our parents are the best parents. And we want to look at each other and say, we made it. We were the best to each other, and we made it through all this, thick and thin. But then I think beyond our family life, I think it's really that I think it'd be fun to be known as people that were passionate about the work. We did good work that mattered. We inspired people. For me, my dream was very small. It started out very small. It literally was to sell, at my house, like have these small home shows, and then it turned into this little shop on Bosque.
We ran the numbers at like $200 a day, and we were like,
if I can make $200 a day,
we can
do
this.
So my dream was really small, but I think when people leave this place and people who know our story know it did start small, and then it ended in this thing, which is huge. The silos, it seems like a big complex now. And I hope people leave going, hey, they start trying to figure out what is it in my own life that, what's my dream?
What's my dream, yeah.
Knowing that there's gonna be hardship and stuff, but for us, it's just to push through it. Chip always says, go get them, you can do this. And I think that's the coaching I needed, even in the hardest of times. So hopefully people leave inspired to dream big.
Hello Today fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.